Hey yo guys, welcome back to Cartoon Mania. Today we're diving into the world of Kim Possible. This show became one of the standout Disney Channel's animated series from the early 2000s. With 4 seasons, 2 animated films, and a crossover special, it's no wonder this show became a fan favorite worldwide. Let's kick things off with a quick rundown. The main character, Kim, is a high school student who doubles as a crime-fighting hero in her free time. Of course, she's not taking on the bad guys solo. She's got her best friend Ron Stoppable at her side. And don't forget about Ron's little sidekick, Rufus, the naked mole rat. Kim also has Wade, the tech genius kid, helping her out with gadgets, info, and hacking the villains' systems whenever necessary. And of course, every hero needs some villains, and Kim's got 2 main ones. There's Dr. Draken, an evil genius, and his partner Shigo, who can shoot energy blasts from her hands. But Kim's life isn't all about saving the world. She's still trying to balance school, cheerleading, and being a teenager, which is no small feat. Anyway, that's the basic setup. Now let's jump into our recap of the first episode, titled Crush. Any guesses what this episode is about? You got it. Kim's dealing with a major crush on Josh Mankey. But just as she's thinking about Josh, she gets an alert from Wade about a crisis in Tokyo. Dr. Draken's up to no good, taking over a factory, and it's time for Kim and the gang to spring into action. When they reach the factory, Kim sets Ron up as a distraction using her communicator. At first, everything's going smoothly. Kim saves the factory workers from being held hostage. But of course, things don't stay easy for long. Ron gets captured, and Draken and Shigo make off with some important factory machinery. The next morning, Kim's dad reads the news and praises her for her heroics, even though Kim's not fully satisfied with how things went. This scene shows 2 things. 1, Kim's got super supportive parents, and 2, as opposed to most heroes, she doesn't have a secret identity, which could lead to some interesting complications down the line. Later, Kim's mom gives her advice about asking Josh to the school dance, while her little brothers, Jim and Tim, cause their usual mischief. At school, Kim tries to muster the courage to ask Josh out, but her rival, Bonnie Rockwaller, shuts her down. Kim decides to wait until after cheer practice to try again. Unfortunately, during practice, she ends up tearing a banner Josh was working on. Ouch! Before she can fix things, Wade calls in with an update. He's tracked down Draken's lair. The team heads out, but a mishap with Rufus triggers the security system, and they're taken back to their lair where they discover Draken used the stolen factory machines to build a giant robot. Draken's plan, like every villain's, is world domination. Just when Kim's about to get blasted by his giant robot, Wade swoops in and hacks the machine, saving her just in time. Things seem under control until Shigo bursts in, leading to an intense fight with Kim. Luckily, the robot starts malfunctioning, knocking the bad guys out cold, and once again, Kim saves the day. Oh, and as a bonus, she asks Josh to the dance, and he says yes. But just one catch, he needs a ride. Pick me up around 7:15. Wait, actually, maybe 7:30. My mom's ironing my pants. Yeah, not too shabby for Kim. Now, in the episode The New Ron decides to get a haircut. He's not into it at first, but eventually he comes around. However, when he gets a cowlick, he insists on flying to France to get some fancy hair gel from Kim's stylist friend. A bit extreme, but hey, I see you. Ain't no harm to put that extra effort to look good. The stylist suggests Ron not only grab the gel, but also revamp his wardrobe. But before they can do much shopping, all of Europe suddenly loses power. They trace the source of the blackout to a private island where they meet the super rich senior and his son, Junior. Sorry, the naming is just genius. Turns out these two are living large, but their mansion is draining the power grid. While Ron jokes that their house feels like a villain's lair, he unknowingly convinces Senior to become an actual supervillain. Meanwhile, Ron's new haircut goes straight to his head. He's acting like a snobby, overconfident version of himself, even ditching Rufus. I mean, come on, did you see this creature? Like, who ditches Rufus? Wade informs Kim that Europe's power is down again thanks to the seniors. This time, they've purposefully caused the blackout. During the fight, Ron and Junior get so caught up admiring their hair that they completely forget about the missiles about to launch. Ron snaps out of it, ditches the comb he's been obsessed with, and focuses on his real mission, saving the world. He learns the hard way that when it comes to saving lives versus worrying about looks, the choice should be obvious. Though the seniors manage to escape, Ron returns home happy with his old hairstyle, realizing things are back to normal. And honestly, that's just fine with him. Oh, and let's not forget about that rude girl, Bonnie. She's still throwing shade left and right, but no worries, Kim's got this. In this episode, the expert thereafter is Duff Killigan, a total Scottish stereotype with an obsession for golf. Long story short, Kim, Will, and Ron manage to shut down his evil plans, which somehow involves dandelions. Yeah, don't ask.
Ooh, ooh. No, no.
Next up is Attack of the Killer BBs, and this one's packed with cool details. Ron decides he needs an extracurricular activity, so naturally he joins the cheerleading squad, right? Meanwhile, we learn that Kim's dad is actually a rocket scientist. As if that's not enough, these weird robot girls start attacking scientists. Ron quickly changes his mind about cheerleading, deciding he wants to be the school mascot instead. But the cheer squad thinks he'll just embarrass everyone. Kim talks things over with her dad, and we get some backstory. Turns out, back in the day, Mr. Possible and his scientist friends had their own awkward buddy, Drew. On the night of the big dance, Drew was in charge of getting them dates. And he showed up with robot girls, yep, all named BB. But the BBs malfunctioned, and the group laughed at Drew so much that he dropped out of college. Man, exactly how villains are made. Mr. Possible still feels guilty about wrecking Drew's dreams and wants to make sure Ron doesn't face the same fate. But Kim thinks Ron's mascot idea is just plain ridiculous. Soon after, Kim gets an alert from Professor Ramesh, one of her dad's old friends, who's asking for help. When she shows up, she sees the BB robots kidnapping him, and of course, Ron accidentally lets them escape. Classic Ron. Later, he figures out that Kim's dad is probably the next target. Without telling Kim, he disguises himself as Mr. Possible, still upset that she shut down his mascot plan. Naturally, Ron gets kidnapped and taken to Dr. Draken's lab. Because, surprise surprise, Draken is behind the whole thing. Kim and her dad rush in to save the day, and as usual, everything comes together just in time. Turns out Dr. Possible recognizes Dr. Draken as his old friend from back in the day, Drew. Drew Draken was desperate to prove to his former pals that his BB robots could work, but things didn't go quite as planned. Just as he's showing off his invention, the BBs turn on him. Guess he's not exactly the most successful mad scientist. With a little help from her dad, Kim uses some quick science to take down the robots and free the kidnapped scientists. And since she's already there, she stops Draken too, because, why not? To wrap it all up, Ron and Kim patch things up, and Ron finally gets to perform his mascot routine, which surprisingly the whole school loves. I know, high school is weird. Like seriously, they're really into it. A few episodes later, while Kim's off helping an explorer track down a rare artifact for a museum, we find out Ron has a serious monkey phobia. Apparently, this all started when he was a kid at Camp Wannaweep, where the camp mascot was, you guessed it, a wild monkey. Honestly, can't blame Ron. Monkeys can be pretty freaky. The explorer, Lord Monty Fisk, is searching for a jade monkey statue. He briefly mentions that the locals believe that if all the monkey statues are brought together, they'll unleash some mystical monkey powers. Naturally, he shrugs it off as nonsense. Kim finds the statue and everything seems fine until a ninja sneaks into the camp and steals it. Kim heads home a bit let down, but back at Fisk's place, we find out that he's been hiding a big secret. He's got monkey-like traits and was a ninja all along. Now that he has the final Jade Monkey statue, he can finally complete his plan to gain those legendary monkey powers. Kim and Ron return to Fisk's place looking for updates on the missing statue, but he thinks they're onto him. So of course he launches into the classic villain monologue. To their shock, Fisk reveals that he's had monkey hands and feet surgically implanted and is about to begin a ritual to gain his full powers. He transforms into the villain Monkey Fist. Quite fitting, right? In the end, Ron manages to break the jade statues, making Fisk lose his powers and saving the day yet again. Oh, and Ron even starts to conquer his fear of monkeys. Kinda. I mean, it'll take some time. Monkeys are pretty terrifying. In the next episode, we're introduced to Dr. Draken's new rival, Professor Dementor. Dementor manages to swipe a pan-dimensional vortex inducer, a device Draken had been trying to get his hands on. To make things worse, Dementor's henchmen are way better than Draken's, leaving his ego in shambles. Shigo decides to steal some advanced henchman tech from Jack Hench, who runs a factory for henchman supplies, and Kim gets wind of it thanks to Wade. She heads to Hench Co. headquarters to check it out. Kim immediately gets a bad vibe from the place, takes down some henchmen, and properly meets Jack Hench. He asks for her help and shows her these rings that make henchmen super strong. Apparently, Shigo has stolen a whole batch of them. Ron, of course, can't resist and puts on the last muscle-enhancing ring for himself. Meanwhile, Draken and his now buffed henchmen plan to steal the pan-dimensional vortex inducer from Professor Dementor in Las Vegas. They make their way to a hotel where Dementor is casually lounging in the pool. Kim sneaks in just like Draken, who had to sneak too since he's not exactly a guest. Unfortunately for Draken, Dementor saw him coming and gave him a good soaking as a greeting. Soon enough, everyone's fighting in the hotel lobby, all trying to get their hands on the vortex inducer. But in typical Draken fashion, he accidentally activates it. Fun fact, that vortex is going to be the size of Nevada. Wait, shoot, they are in Nevada. Anyway, everyone's scrambling to stop it before it obliterates the entire state. Ron tries to help but ends up stuck. Realizing that to save the day, he'll have to give up his newfound muscles, Ron reluctantly does just that. Oh, and now we have a buff version of Rufus, because why not? And the next episode is easily one of the strangest season finales I've ever seen. In low budget, Kim ruins her favorite pair of jeans during a battle with an alligator. Desperate for a replacement, Kim and Ron head to Smarty Mart for some cheap new ones, but Kim's not impressed. She prefers her high fashion pants from Club Banana. Ron teases her for being a retail snob. They go to the mall to hit up Club Banana, but guess what they run into? Bonnie Rockwaller, who, of course, mocks Kim for her wardrobe situation. Out of nowhere, a Smarty Mart employee named Frugal Lucre reveals his evil plan to crash the internet unless everyone in the world sends him $1. To make matters worse, Wade can't even contact Kim because of this guy's tech sabotage. And as if things weren't bad enough, Kim can't even buy new pants because all the registers are down. Now it got personal and they've got to stop this guy. Turns out Smarty Mart and Club Banana are owned by the same company. Fun fact. The team quickly realizes that tracking down the Smarty Mart villain won't be easy with so many stores around the country. After some sleuthing, they discover Frugal Lucre works at a Smarty Mart in Philadelphia and lives, predictably, in his mom's basement. When Kim and Ron find him, he proudly calls himself a bargain bin villain. Classic. In true villain fashion, Frugal Lucre traps Kim and Ron while explaining his ridiculous plan to crash the internet using a barcode on a can of sausages. Don't ask how. It's as bizarre as it sounds. Just as his evil scheme unfolds, Ron frantically grabs every can he can find, and Kim takes down Lucre himself. The day is saved, and Smarty Mart's prices remain unbeatable. In the episode 2 to Tutor, we see a villain team up we never expected. Senor Senior Jr. teams up with Shigo because apparently he needs a tutor to help him improve his villainy. Junior actually becomes pretty skilled at pulling off robberies, much to the dismay of his father, who gets a bit jealous now that his son is outshining him as a villain. Kim and Ron are tipped off about Junior and Shigo's next heist by Senor Senior Sr., who hilariously fails at keeping his tip anonymous. Like, 2 criminals will be trying to steal your chocolate chip recipe. Seriously, a cookie recipe? Kim and Ron stake out to protect the recipe, still baffled by the target, but sure enough, Junior and Shigo show up and are swiftly caught. "You're so busted," Kim says as they realize there's nothing too sinister about a cookie recipe, but hey, a win is a win. With the evil duo stopped and jailed, the recipe is safe. In a later episode called Job Unfair, Draken returns, this time swiping a giant weather machine. No idea how you even make one of those, but whatever. Draken decides to take the machine for a spin, using it to suck up an entire lake to fuel a storm. His ultimate goal? Take over Canada. I mean, of all places, Canada? Don't get me wrong, Canada's pretty cool. High literacy rate, good healthcare, and clean cities. My future evil kingdom, Draken declares. Luckily, Draken and Shigo aren't exactly pros at using the weather machine just yet. Kim and Ron head to the dealership where the machine was stolen and catch Shigo in the act of stealing the owner's manual because, of course, Draken didn't bother reading it. Kim is taken down by Shigo while Ron, well, lets her escape. Classic Ron. Later, while grabbing a bite at Bueno Nacho, Kim and Ron discover what Draken's been doing to Canada's Great Lakes and rush to stop him at the last lake he hasn't drained yet. The pair are captured and tied to a lightning rod just as Draken's storm begins. Kim fights Shigo atop the weather machine, and Ron redeems himself by stopping Draken before the storm gets out of control. They turn off the machine, saving the day once again. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that this weather machine also pops up in Day of the Snowman, where a freak snowstorm hits Kim's hometown of Middleton. Mutant snowmen start attacking the town, but Kim melts them down by using the weather machine to dump the toxic snowman sludge into Camp Wannaweep. Yep, that same camp Ron went as a kid. And now let's talk about A Sitch in Time, the first Kim Possible movie. Get ready because it's a time travel story, which means things are about to get really complicated. The movie kicks off with some bad news. Ron's moving to Norway. Yeah, that's not great for Kim's crime fighting. Ron officially leaves town and Kim is left wondering how she'll manage without her best friend. You miss him a lot, huh? Monique asks. We've been tight for so long, it's weird, Kim admits. But of course, Ron calls her every 5 minutes, checking in. As Kim heads to stop a robbery at a museum, Ron promises to keep up his crime-fighting ways from across the globe. At the museum, Kim faces off against Monkey Fist, who's trying to steal a rare artifact. She doesn't realize he's being helped by Duff Killigan, Shigo, and Draken all at once. The villains get away with the monkey artifact, leaving Kim trapped in a sarcophagus. Ron arrives, about 12 hours late. The museum curator explains that the artifact they stole is just half of a larger monkey idol, and if the two halves are joined, some serious evil could be unleashed. With Ron gone, Kim tries to partner with Monique, but things don't exactly go as planned. The villains manage to grab the other half of the idol and head to the ancient monkey temple to combine the pieces and unlock its power. Kim shows up just before they can complete the ritual, but unfortunately, Monkey Fist gets the idol together just in time. The villains step through a time portal, with Draken, of course, explaining their evil plan in classic villain fashion. Kim Possible will meet again, in time, he says dramatically. A few days later, after losing her last fight with the villains, Kim is visited by Rufus 3000, a future descendant of Ron's trusty pet mole rat. He shows her an alternate future where it seems Draken, or someone, has taken over the world. And things are looking bleak. Rufus 3000 hands Kim a time-traveling watch, telling her that the future is now ruled by someone known as the Supreme One. Meanwhile, we find out that the villain's new plan is to go back in time to when Kim was just starting preschool, hoping to stop her from ever becoming a crime fighter. In the present day, Ron is flipping through an old scrapbook and reminiscing. As a fun nod for fans, we see a reference to the first time he became the school mascot. But as he turns the page to a picture of him and Kim on their first day of preschool, something strange happens. The photo changes to show kid versions of the villains in their class. Shigo, still in her normal age, is keeping watch, while the younger versions of the bad guys bully little Kim. Kim travels back in time to preschool and a fight breaks out between her and Shigo. At the same time, little Kim is getting picked on by the mini villains, prompting a young Ron to step up and defend her. The jungle law of daycare is over. We have rules now, he declares, trying to bring order to the chaos. But, of course, little Ron gets caught in the bullying too. Oh, and did I mention Ron's imaginary friend is a huge invisible version of Rufus, which is pretty adorable. Eventually, little Kim manages to defeat the preschool versions of the bad guys, while present-day Kim takes down Shigo. With both Kims victorious, the villains retreat back through their time portal, escaping to their next scheme. The villains launch Calm, a site where people can submit emergencies to Kim in an attempt to ruin her first mission and crush her spirit. Meanwhile, as a backup plan, Monkey Fist heads back in time to gain some ancient gorilla power so they can do more than just crush Kim's spirit. Young Kim and Ron head off on their first mission, saving a billionaire who's trapped in his own security laser system, unaware that the villains are lurking nearby. Oh, and we also get to see baby Rufus. Adorable and kind of gross at the same time. Funny enough, the billionaire contacted Kim by accident. He was actually trying to reach Team Impossible, you know, the elite commando squad. This is what they train for. This might seem like a minor detail, but trust me, you'll want to remember this. Young Kim manages to save the billionaire by skillfully dodging the lasers and shutting down the system, completing her first mission successfully even though there are no snacks involved. But just when things seem settled, Monkey Fist returns with a massive stone gorilla robot. And of course, young Ron freaks out because, well, monkeys. Modern day Kim shows up to help her younger self to take down the giant robot gorilla. But while that's happening, a future version of Shigo pulls the present day Shigo aside and tells her to grab the time monkey. With everything spiraling, it seems like all hope is lost, until Rufus 3000 brings modern Ron back to the scene and he accidentally saves the day. Kim and Ron give their younger selves some sage advice, with Ron hilariously referencing the time he got his hair cut. In the future, you're going to change your hair and become a babe magnet. Trust me, keep that look. But when young Ron asks about his hat, older Ron replies, forget about that. The villains are rounded up and arrested, but Shigo manages to slip away, snatching the time monkey and escaping through a portal. Rufus 3000 returns, revealing that the Supreme One still took over, which confuses Kim since Draken is already locked up. That's when Rufus drops the bomb. Shigo is the one who takes over in the future. Realizing they need to stop her, Kim and Ron hop through a portal to chase her down. Disguised, Kim and Ron are quickly caught by Shigo's drones and sent to the Attitude Adjustment Center, which turns out to be their old high school. To make matters worse, their high school rival Bonnie Rockwaller is now a heartless teacher there. Shigo even made an instructional video showing that she's taken over Draken, turning him into her sidekick. Draken, of course, protests, "My schemes weren't stupid," but Shigo isn't having it. Two freedom fighters appear to help Kim and Ron break out with the assistance of an army of naked mole rats. The freedom fighters turn out to be the future versions of Kim's little brothers, Jim and Tim, who explain that their parents led a migration to the moon when Shigo took over. But hey, they seem to be doing alright up there. Kim and the team head to the Resistance base where they meet future Wade, who is, by the way, completely ripped now. Together they plan a mission to sneak into Shigo's lair and steal the time monkey to end the chaos. On their way, they encounter future versions of the villains, getting past Monkey Fist and his army of monkeys, and then confronting cyber-enhanced Duff Killigan. Finally, they reach Shigo's throne room, where Shigo orders a now-buff Draken to fight Kim and Ron. Despite some help from the future Monique, the Resistance is overwhelmed, but Draken convinces Shigo to reveal her evil plan. Classic villain move. During her monologue, Shigo admits that she was never even responsible for Ron moving to Norway, which enrages Ron enough to easily take down Draken, blow up the fortress, and accidentally destroy the time monkey. This resets everything back to normal. Oh, and in true Shigo fashion, she gets kicked off a cliff in a pretty brutal way. In a later episode titled Motor Ed, we're introduced to a character named, well, Motor Ed. Kim gets a call from Wade about a series of robberies involving super powerful engines and motors. But before she jumps into action, she meets Felix, the son of one of her parents' friends, who uses a wheelchair. Kim tries to think of something fun for all of them to do and decides on a monster truck rally, where, just so it happens, Motor Ed is planning his next heist. Kim chases him as he tries to escape, but doesn't manage to catch him. Wade digs up some more information on Motor Ed, and Kim finds out that he got fired from a mechanical engineering job for refusing to cut his mullet. Yep, basically, they wanted him to trim his hair, and he said no. Apparently, you don't clip the lion's mane while it roars. Seriously though, the writers of the show must have had some hair drama in their life. Kim, Ron, and Felix set up a trap for Motor Ed using a fake super engine built by her dad's company. Motor Ed takes the bait, but he actually wins the fight against them and runs off with the fake engine. Kim knows he's going to be pretty angry when he realizes it's not the real deal, and after Motor Ed kidnaps Ron, Kim and Felix head off to rescue him. They get cornered by Motor Ed and his gang in their monster trucks, but with some clever help from Felix's high-tech wheelchair, they manage to beat them and save the day. Motor Ed is one strange dude. Oh, and by the way, he's Draken's cousin, which makes things even weirder. In the episode Dimension Twist, a top-secret lab is broken into, and their pan-dimensional vortex inducer is stolen. If you remember the new Ron from Season 1, you'll recall Draken tried to steal that device last time, but it's no surprise he's involved again. This time, Draken sets up a laser cannon powered by the vortex inducer while getting his cable hooked up to his TV. In typical Draken fashion, he rushes the cable guy, mixes up the wires, and ends up crossing the laser with the cable. The cable guy, unfazed, tells Draken, "You scare me just the way you are." Draken, confused, asks, "Is that sweet or sarcastic? I can never tell." Kim arrives on the scene just as Draken tries to fire the laser, and they all end up sucked into the TV. The rest of the episode is pure chaos as they jump through different TV channels, dealing with whatever show they land in. By the end, Kim and Ron escape the TV while Draken and Shigo keep flipping through channels. Okay, who else is getting Fairly Odd Parents Channel Chasers vibes here? In the next episode, we finally get the outcome of something I hinted at before. Remember in the movie when Kim saved a billionaire and I mentioned that he was trying to get in touch with Team Impossible? Well, now in the episode titled Team Impossible, the group finally arrives on the scene and they confront Kim and inform her that her days as a hero are finished because they charge for saving lives and her efforts have been eating into their profits. As it turns out, when the billionaire tried to contact Team Impossible but accidentally reached out to Kim, it ended up costing the team a substantial amount of money. And as we all know, money talks. Now they're demanding she stop her rescue missions immediately. To show they mean business, they literally smash through the roof. That's a way of entry. They even cut off her access to all the transportation she usually relies on for saving the world. On a lighter note, Ron gripes about not receiving a boxed lunch since they were last-minute additions to the mission. But Kim is too focused to care. Things escalate further when Wade attempts to hack into Team Impossible's system, only to have things take a wild turn. Team Impossible retaliates by hacking Wade's network instead and frying all his computers. Fortunately, Wade manages to get the critical location data just before everything shuts down, and with a frustrated sigh, he relays the information to Kim over the phone. Kim and Ron then infiltrate Team Impossible's secret headquarters, and to turn the tables, a furious Wade shows up in person and activates the Lair's defense system. The same one the billionaire used in the movie. Oh, and this time Wade is there in the flesh. His virtual avatar was impressive, but real-life Wade? That's a whole new level of awesome. Kim defeats Team Impossible and puts them in their place, with the episode ending on a lighter note as everyone grabs tacos at Ron's favorite hangout, Bueno Nacho. Fun fact for the comic book fans, Team Impossible's costumes are heavily inspired by the old X-Men blue and gold uniforms. Now let's gear up for the next big adventure in the second Kim Possible movie, So the Drama. This one is full of action. Draken is making a bold move to take over the world, starting with a plot involving Shigo kidnapping the president of a Japanese toy company, the same one from Kim's first episode. Kim manages to rescue the president, but Shigo slips away before they can capture her. Back at his lair, Draken tells Shigo he's raising the stakes. He's determined to mess with Kim by learning everything he can about teenage girls, thinking it'll help him to get the upper hand. "I will get inside her high school head. I will understand Kim Possible," he exclaims. Draken also swipes a blueprint for the toy company president during the kidnapping attempt, calling it a crucial step in his grand scheme for world domination. Meanwhile, Kim travels to the Bermuda Triangle where Draken has been sighted. She sneaks into his lair in disguise and overhears his meeting with a mobster to gather intel. Shigo spots Kim and the two engage in a fierce fight. Amid the chaos, it's revealed that Draken is hunting for a secret related to cybertronics. The knowledge that only one man possesses, Dr. Possible. Yep, Kim's father. Draken and Shigo escape, leaving Kim and Ron behind. A few days later, we find Kim back at high school feeling a bit down. Prom is approaching and everyone seems to have a date except her. Normally she'd ask Ron, but this time she's thinking of switching things up. Ron meets a new guy named Eric and shows him around school. Eric notices Kim and asks Ron about her, hinting that he is interested in her. He even asks if Ron and Kim have ever dated. No, we've been best friends forever, but not like that. She's, awesome. Ron tries to steer the conversation, saying, "Let's not talk about her like that, okay?" and Eric brushes it off saying, okay, whatever works. Then Kim meets Eric and immediately falls head over heels. Cue a montage of Kim and Eric spending time together, leaving Ron feeling a bit left out. Meanwhile, Dr. Possible is working in his lab on a top-secret cyber project called Hephaestus. Of course, Draken sneaks in and demands the project. In a bad move, Dr. Possible deletes the files right in front of Draken, but foolishly mentions that he has the whole thing memorized. So naturally, Draken decides to use his brain-tapping machine on him, and Dr. Possible is a rocket scientist, but wow, that was a major mistake. Kim soon finds out that her dad has been kidnapped, and she rushes off to Draken's lair with Ron. They're quickly caught and find Dr. Possible tied up. Draken gloats that he's actually in a new hideout and is just a hologram there. Classic villain move. Kim saves her dad and asks what happened, but mysteriously, he can't remember anything from that night. Meanwhile, Bueno Nacho, Ron's favorite taco spot, has started giving out toys with meals that look just like the stolen designs from that Japanese toy company Draken targeted earlier. Kim talks to Ron about Eric, and it's clear that Ron is a bit jealous that Kim's been spending so much time with him. Kim reassures Ron that their friendship won't change. Right then, Eric shows up to take Kim for a walk where he asks her about her missions and then invites her to prom. Ron later admits to Rufus that he's been thinking there might be something more between him and Kim. But now he's worried that if he tells her how he feels, it could ruin her night with Eric, or worse, their friendship. Yikes. Prom night comes and Eric takes Kim to the dance. They're having a great time while Ron is left all alone at Bueno Nacho. Poor guy. While there, the cashier signals something's wrong, spelling it out with hot sauce while his boss isn't looking. Then Ron notices that the signature bendy straws have been replaced with regular straws. Furious, he calls Wade, who discovers that Draken is actually running Bueno Nacho. Oh, this is no bueno, Ron mutters. Soon after, the toys being handed out at Bueno Nacho start coming to life and causing chaos. Ron rushes to prom to warn Kim and get her on the case. My best friend Kim will believe me, right, Kim? She looks a bit surprised but says, I totally believe you. The toys were here and they were evil, right? Eric, though, doesn't seem too happy about the interruption. Meanwhile, Draken is chatting with Shigo about activating the robots worldwide at midnight. But he plans to activate them in Kim's hometown, Middleton, right away. Oh, and he has a framed picture of Eric and Kim on his desk. What? The robots are built using the tech Draken stole from Dr. Possible, which can grow, repair, and upgrade itself. Draken sets the robots loose, forcing Kim and Ron to flee their homes since the robots are way too big and dangerous to fight. Kim and Ron manage to knock over the Bueno Nacho sign, shutting off the signal that controls the robots, saving Middleton, or so they think. Draken calls Kim and reveals that he's kidnapped Eric, telling her that she has to surrender if she wants to save him. Kim and Ron head to Bueno Nacho headquarters, which is now Draken's new lair. Kim shows up in a new battlesuit, equipped with a laser gun, ready for action. Kim faces off against Shigo, and thanks to her new suit, she defeats Shigo pretty quickly. But then Eric shows up to congratulate Kim, only to reveal that he's actually a robot, one of Draken's Syntho drones. Her one shot at T-Love. Talk about a twist. As if that's not bad enough, Shigo wakes up and captures both Kim and Ron, tying them up in the basement. When they wake up, Kim starts regretting her feelings for Eric. You kissed the Syntho drone, Ron teases. Kim fires back, I never kissed him, but I wanted to. Okay, too much info, Ron says, before finally admitting he actually likes her. Kim, surprised, asks, do you really think there's someone out there for me? Ron replies, out there, in here. Oh really? Kim asks, just as Rufus helps them break free. They rush back upstairs to stop Draken, who has just launched the robots worldwide. Kim fights Shigo again while Ron takes on Eric, managing to knock Eric's head. Rufus steps in, biting Eric and draining his goo. Yeah, don't ask. And with that, they manage to destroy the control tower, shutting down the robots. Ron then confronts Draken, telling him he went too far by ruining Bueno Nacho. Ron even accidentally quotes Breaking Bad before it was a thing, saying, say my name. Draken, confused, begs, say it. And fun fact, this happened 3 years before Breaking Bad even aired. Wait, can it be Breaking Bad referenced Ron Stoppable? Anyway, with the villains arrested, Kim and Ron finally make it to the dance, where they share their first kiss. Yep, it's been a long time coming. But that's not all Kim Possible has in store for us. We've got a couple more stories that wrap up the series perfectly. Let's dive right in. Before that part where you melted, we were at the dance and we kissed, right? Kim asks. Ron replies, yeah, did you have the same dream? Kim laughs, no, Ron, that part really happened. Ron, still a little dazed, says, oh yeah, well, it won't happen again if you keep calling me in the middle of the night. In the first episode of the new season, now that Kim and Ron are officially dating, Ron starts to worry that Kim will break up with him. Why? Because, well, all the other cheerleaders are dating jocks. To keep up, Ron decides to join the football team with a little help from Kim's battlesuit. Meanwhile, Dementor is back, and he's after Kim's suit. He actually manages to steal it, but Kim rewires it to work against him, so his plan totally backfires. Well, at least Ron is still on the football team, even without the suit. Turns out he's a better runner than passer. In the episode Mad Dogs and Aliens, Ron's football career catches up with him, and he has to give up his mascot job to Kim's little brothers. Meanwhile, we catch up with Draken, who is in prison playing checkers with Frugal Lucre. But then a strange green light breaks Draken out of jail. It's probably Shigo, considering she broke out with Motor Ed in the previous episode, Car Alarm. Kim hears about Draken's escape and tracks down Shigo, but Shigo claims she had nothing to do with it. As for Draken, he's now on a spaceship with an alien named Warhawk, who's searching for the Great Blue, a being her people are destined to follow. Draken, realizing he has blue skin, pretends to be this Great Blue and figures out that Warhawk would give him all her weapons and help him lead an intergalactic conquest. Definitely Draken's kind of plan. He even kidnaps Shigo as payback for not breaking him out of prison earlier. Draken brags to Kim about a device he and Warhawk created to drain all the Earth's oxygen. Kim, of course, shows up, meets Warhawk, and destroys the device. Just the usual day of Kim saving the world. In the series finale, Kim is finally graduating from high school, but Ron is freaking out that their relationship won't survive when they go to college. KP, what if this is the end? He worries. Kim reassures him, telling him it's not the end of the world. Felix also makes an appearance and is the class valedictorian. But just as everyone's leaving on their last day of school, something big happens. Literally. As Kim heads home with her family for graduation, a giant alien spaceship strikes her house. While giving her speech at graduation, Kim is suddenly abducted by the alien ship, leaving Ron stunned on the ground. Turns out Draken was taken too. Well, even captivity has its perks, like seeing Kim Possible helpless. Draken sneers. Warhawk, along with another alien warrior named Warhawk, who looks a lot like Drax the Destroyer with those tattoos, are planning their revenge on Kim and Draken by taking over the Earth. It really might be the end of the world, after all. The aliens launch massive ships to invade every part of the planet. Kim and Ron are still trapped on the alien ship, and to make things weirder, Draken now has flowers growing out of him thanks to a botched experiment. Again, don't ask. Ron and Dr. Possible come up with the idea to build a rocket to save Kim, while on the ship, Kim and Draken manage to escape their prison cell with the help of a mutant flower sprouting from Draken's neck. And guess who lends a hand? Shigo! Didn't see that coming, did you? Back on Earth, Ron and Dr. Possible get the rocket ready, but Shigo forces Dr. Possible to stay behind at the space station while she and Ron blast off into space. Once they sneak on board the alien ship, they meet up with Kim and Draken. And in a twist that shocks everyone, Draken and Shigo almost hug. Maybe they aren't as bad as we thought after all. Meanwhile, Rufus manages to find the switch that shuts down the ship, sending it plummeting towards Earth. The whole team scrambles to escape, and for once, Draken actually has a plan to save the world instead of conquering it. Is Draken really turning over a new leaf? He insists, don't make me say it out loud. The group escapes in pods and makes it back to Earth. But the fight's not over yet. They're still being chased by the aliens, and Draken's plan is their only hope. He and Shigo race to retrieve the invention that's causing Draken to grow those pesky flower petals, while Kim and Ron distract the alien army. Just when it looks like they're surrounded, Draken takes control of his flowers and commands them to attack the alien robots, easily wiping them out. The aliens are captured and things seem to be settling down until they break free and kidnap Kim. That's when Ron, tapping into the monkey kung fu skills that he learned way back in season 1, goes full force and takes down the aliens, sending them flying into their crashing ship, which explodes in a fiery finish. I'm not even sure how, but hey, it worked. With the aliens gone, Kim and Ron finally graduate. Draken, believe it or not, is awarded a Medal of Honor and even gets a forced hug from Shigo thanks to the flowers still growing from his neck. The series wraps up with Kim and Ron flying off into the stars, sharing one last kiss. It's a happy ending all around. But wait, there's one more very, very important detail that I haven't mentioned yet. Are you ready for it? 3, 2, 1. Kim met Lilo and Stitch. I guess no need for further explanation. Have a good one, everybody. Peace!